Hello, this is Lord's Legion yet again with a brand new countdown. And in this video we're gonna be discussing the top 8 Suicide Squad members. Now bear this in mind, this is gonna be based within the Suicide Squad movie. And although Amanda Waller is technically in the group, I don't want to put it on the list purely because I see her more as the brains of the group than an actual member, if that makes any sense. And I also want to touch upon certain aspects that have been left from the final cut for each character because I find it to be incredibly interesting. So without further ado, let's get onto the list. And yous are all seeing this one coming from a mile away, so let's get right into number 1, who is none other than Slipknot. I mean, come on, how can he not be number 1? I mean, come on, he had little to no screen time, but his presence is never forgotten. He is an all-round scumbag, an assassin, and a serial rapist in the original version. And everybody knows that Slipknot is the most badass member of the Suicide Squad, and... okay, yeah, I'm really not fooling anyone at this point. He's actually number 8, so let's get on to number 7. So for number 7 we have Flagg. And I know some people are going to be like, what? That's a little low for Flagg, but let's really be honest. He's kinda boring by comparison to near enough everybody else on the Suicide Squad. When it really comes down to it, Flagg is pretty much a kinda Amanda Waller, but instead also gets his hands dirty. I mean, I know I sound negative when I talk about Flagg, but honestly, he was fine in the film. He has served his purpose quite well, and he does take care of the Suicide Squad and keep them intact. But at the end of the day, I just don't find him as interesting in comparison to everybody else in the Suicide Squad. So for these reasons, this is why I put Flagg as my number 7. Number 6, we have Katana. Katana is pretty much Flagg's bodyguard who actually helps him keep control of the Suicide Squad. And considering she's the only voluntary member of the Suicide Squad, she doesn't give a shit about any other character despite Flagg. However, what's interesting about Katana is the fact that she has a Soul Taker sword, in which she can communicate with her dead husband. Now, despite how we barely get much Katana in the film, I do feel like they're planting the seeds for this character to shine in more films. So for all we know, she could appear in the next Batman film, or hell, she could even be a lead of the Outsiders. Either way, I can't wait to see more Katana slashing enemies. Coming in at number 5, we have Croc. And thank God we finally have a live action adaptation of Croc. And sure, we didn't have much of him as we should have in the film, however I still think he is an enjoyable character regardless. He's funny, he's badass, and all around he is interesting. And what I find interesting about Croc is the fact that despite his mutations, he still thinks he's beautiful, and despite how people think that the Zeus is his hideout, he sees it as his kingdom. I'm so glad that they haven't killed off this character yet, because I actually want to see him fighting Batman in a future film. And I just can't wait to see more Croc in general. And who knows, maybe we can delve in more to his cannibalism that has been scrapped completely from the final cut, which is quite unfortunate. For number 4, we have El Diablo. To be honest, I was quite surprised that we got quite a lot of him in the film. And we also got quite a deep backstory with the character. Nothing Shakespearean or anything like that, but regardless, it was very tragic. To the point where he's very reluctant to use his powers. And in my opinion, out of everyone in the Suicide Squad, El Diablo is by far the most humanized out of the bunch. And when we saw El Diablo sacrifice himself to save the Suicide Squad, that was very touching, and I'm so sad that they killed off this character in the end. I never really knew anything about El Diablo in the comics, however when I saw this film, I actually really enjoyed this character, and I'm so sad that we won't see him in any other future films. Number 3, Captain Boomerang. Boomerang is an all-round weirdo who is always off his face, and he is a complete douchebag. And despite being a complete douchebag, he is one of these douchebags that is actually kinda fun to watch. And it's really enjoyable to see how he really doesn't care about anyone other than himself. However, it would be interesting if we actually saw the original cut, Because not only was he a lot more sexist towards Harley Quinn, but he was also a lot more racist towards Katana. And in the original cut, Harley Quinn literally likes everyone in the Suicide Squad apart from Boomerang, and it was unfortunate that they haven't actually kept that in the final cut. But regardless, Captain Boomerang is a likeable asshole. For our runner-up, we have Deadshot. Assassin by day, a loving father by night. Despite how Deadshot does things for money, he does have a moral code. And deep down, he's really not bad of a person, he just does things for money. And of course he is a master marksman, but deep down he also really cares about other members of the Suicide Squad. But at the same time, he can be a massive badass. But who could top Deadshot in being the best Suicide Squad member? Do you really have to ask? And there's no surprise at all, number 1 is Harley Quinn. I mean, I know it's an obvious choice, but come on, Harley Quinn was so perfect in this film. She was dangerous, unpredictable, and all around sassy. Although her voice isn't as high pitched as in the animated series per se, she does capture her voice rather well. And just pretty much everything from the way she moves to the way she fights and even the way she speaks is just flawless. And she especially looks creepy as hell wearing her original Chester suit. But at the end of the day, there's no other spot to place Harley Quinn than my number 1. So who is your favourite Suicide Squad member? Please comment below and share some thoughts. Thank you everyone for watching this video, please like and subscribe. Take care, and as always, have a good one.